Mortier is a company or an initiative that aims to be the platform for upcycled or innovative materials. So, what does it mean, right? It means they are always on the lookout for new materials that are sustainable to use as an alternative to whatever we are using right now. So, they explore different materials at a time, and maybe you'll talk about it later as well, but for now, it is plastic waste that is of a big focus at the moment. And we thought that it would be the perfect place and the perfect opportunity to discuss the topic of upcycling and green lifestyle with these two young co-founders, Mendy Laoda and Irene Kusuma. So thanks so much guys for dropping by. And first maybe you can begin by telling us more about Mortier.
Yes, Kar. Thank you, Kar. We started Mortier 2 years ago with the aims that we want to transform every waste material into something with higher value. Since I also have passion in construction, I imagine it will be great if we can use these waste materials for building waste materials because, as we know, building materials will require abundant materials to be processed. We started with cement and we tried to make small concrete pot and some home decors as it is the simplest things to make. Then we started to find other materials to replace the cement, remembering the high CO2 emission from cement production. And so we use fly ash and jasmonite. So yeah, actually we changed the materials per season and now we are exploring the plastic waste.
Right. And now, obviously, you two are very young women who started this project out of passion and, of course, with other things going on as well. In what ways has pursuing this project been rewarding for you?
We think like more of self-rewarding, like the feeling of real satisfaction from deep inside, even though we know that what we did is not as big or significant for the impacts. But we just feel the real happiness from doing that small things actually, which may be the maximum point that we can do for our environment at the moment. The more rewarding moment was also when people actually appreciate and willing to know or even engage more with these little things. Like for example, when someone asks us to donate their used plastic bags, just because they simply care and think what I can do better for the environment. And I think we can help them make them feel less guilty with themselves in terms of
Right.
environment. Yeah.
And maybe you can explain for those who are new to the subject, like the difference between upcycling and recycling.
Yeah, upcycling is repurposing or using unused stuff into something that has higher value than the original object, such as from waste into another product that has no function, form, and more aesthetic. Another example is from patchwork into bag. Whereas recycling is the process of turning waste into another product that is often has less quality or value. For example, from colorful plastic stuffs or containers into cement bucket with limited color, usually either black or green.
And do you want to give an example maybe of an upcycling project that you did?
For example, like from used groceries plastic bags into new upcycled bag. Like in Mortier, we actually have a new product which is eco-friendly packaging. The material itself basically from used plastic bags from which we collect from the local surroundings from the wet markets. And these used plastic bags are cleaned and then we press layer by layer until we achieve proper thickness. Then we form it into desired patterns. So like this new product becomes stronger, more durable, and have better look, of course, than the original version. Yeah.
Perfect. And so maybe let's talk about plastic. Yeah. What are your views on this one specific material? Maybe the usage of it and the processing?
In terms of usage, not only apply for plastics, but actually also other materials such as paper or fabric. Its usage should be maximized by reusing them as much as we can. If it's not possible to reuse it again, then disposal should not be the next option. So recycle should be the alternative option to close the loop. Then rethink whether we really need to dispose it or even consume it as the first place. Plastic itself consists of 7 different types. Each type has distinct characteristics, specifically for its melting point level. For processing those plastic, we have to make sure the same type of plastics is reprocessed together, not mix it up different types of plastic, as it will be hard to maintain its value to reprocess again later on. For example, we need to reprocess type 1 with type 1 and so on. So Mortier itself reprocess use plastic for type 2 and 4 as it has high durability and has its own market due to its aesthetic.
Cool. And from the perspective of millennials like yourself, how hard is it, do you think, to start incorporating this green lifestyle? And maybe what usually becomes the roadblock?
Like compared to 10 years ago, for instance, it is actually much easier to start these green lifestyles actually, as more and more millennials are concerned and more aware with environmental issues. Like in fact, a lot of more sustainable options we can see and its supporting facilities are available right now to start this green lifestyle. For example, like in restaurants, we can see many restaurants are actually not offering straws anymore for its customers. And so we can see that both parties are actually has putting efforts to solve these issues. And we can see also another example, like in Plaza Senayan Mall, they provide especially designed trash bin with several different holes for different types of waste. And these trash bins can even accept e-waste like batteries, which is usually unaddressed in our community. Like for the roadblocks, we think like it's habit. It's really hard to change habit, but it's not impossible if we become more aware and be mindful of our environment and ourselves. Like for example, it's true. Like it's hard for us to even always remember for bringing our own reusable bags when we do shopping. And we also forget usually to inform our waiter in restaurant for not putting straws. Yeah, and sometimes we just throw away our trash in any kind of holes in our trash bin. Yeah, so it's actually hard, but yeah, we can do if we want actually, if we be mindful of ourselves.
Right, right. So, if you were to advise our young audience, maybe, what would be the easy step to start living responsibly?
Well, the easiest step is to bring our own reusable bags to go shopping so we do not have to use plastics anymore. Or let us just think a bit before we do or throw something so that we are not putting plastic waste to different holes that is specifically for organic waste or landfill. Because when it happens, it only makes the organic waste even harder to decompose. So yeah, let us learn to get used to rethink, remember and aware with things that may be simple, but the impacts are actually big for our environment.
For young companies, I guess, maybe you've had the experience of starting it out of passion and sort of becoming this advocate of green lifestyle. What was the experience like?
Oh, well,
Um,
actually, like Irene said, it's more about for ourselves first than to ask another to join. So actually, we made this Mortier for ourselves first. Then we want to show everybody that we can do simple things for environment, I think.
So it's more of like leading by example, yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked this is because I think this is a very interesting angle that we haven't had in this podcast series, because so far we've talked to big corporations and more mature companies and older ones, but we haven't had someone in the younger crowd, because I think the different scale of businesses would have different ways of influencing effectively, right? Maybe the big corporations would have the capital to do excessive marketing, but your approach is more personal and heart to heart, for lack of better word.
That's what we did in every bazaar sih, Kar. So we met all the customers like personally. So we talk to customers and we share our passion, and from that story they feel touched. So they want to see how we did it, how we reprocess the plastic, and how can they do for help us?
That's awesome. Yeah, and so yeah, that's why I asked you about the challenges back when you started the company. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, we do have roadblocks for setting up this company. Like we know a lot of people out there also making like this small business, and but they just do it by their own, and we just do our own, and then we just think, how about if we join together and we collaborate together, and maybe the impact will be big, because like from many disciplines, and we learn together and we try to solve this issue together. And that this waste is not, especially plastic, is not a simple issue, and it involves a lot of different parties, especially also the government and also the big companies, especially the plastic companies and also the NGOs. And yeah, we just think that as small business, we have certain limitations, especially for the capital. That's why we just run our business and stay small. But we know that if we actually get together with other and get more fundings, and maybe the impacts may be bigger.
Since you mentioned the many different players, I'm curious, what is it like in Indonesia, in your opinion, about the public reception in adopting this lifestyle?
We can compare like in Jakarta and in Bali. We can see the different culture and the different point of view about waste. Like in Bali, they maybe are already aware about this issue more than people in Jakarta, because Bali is nearby ocean, so they really experience the bad things about plastic waste going into the ocean, and they really take these things more than in Jakarta. They try to recycle it more and try to reduce it more, even though and also they have special regulations for not using straw anymore. So yeah, it depends in which area you live. And like in Jakarta, we know that these small business are actually not as many as in other areas, because people in Jakarta are less aware about their waste. They just do and try to gain profit things, or like try to do what they think for their own things.
Oh, that's a good point though, that in Jakarta, maybe we are far from seeing the actual result or the impact. And so that's why it's slower to change. But maybe if we are more intact with it, or we see it on a regular basis, like the case of Bali with people seeing plastics in the ocean almost every day, then we become more caring towards it. Great. Thanks so much for sharing, Mendy and Irene. I think we really got a good grasp of how to adopt this lifestyle and about upcycling itself. So thank you.
Thank you,
You,
Kak.
Kak.